There's so much pressure in online business to always be making something new offers, new launches, new content. But what if your next step wasn't making something new and it was making what you already have better? That's exactly how I'm approaching my second half of the year. This episode is a peek into how I'm planning out my last few months of the year, and it doesn't involve big launches. It doesn't involve new products. Instead, I'm focusing on what I already have and supporting my clients in a way that's going to work for me and them. So if you're feeling stretched thin or like you have to do more in your marketing, this might offer some different perspectives on how to approach your strategy for the rest of the year. So let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Cozypreneur podcast. If this is your first time listening, Cozypreneur is all about helping you make money and work with the dreamiest of clients. So grab your beverage, get your cozy socks on, and let's dive in. So one thing to think about is if you are somebody who has multiple offers, you can still be selling the same transformation in different ways. I had a client that did this super well where she had this like big program that was super intensive and really high touch and high level, but then she created a membership that had a small piece of that for a low price point. And then she had one-on-one intensives, and all of the transformation was the same, but the offers looked slightly different to meet people where they were. And so that is exactly what I'm focusing on for the rest of the year, is not creating anything new, but like, how can I repackage what I already have to meet my clients where they are? So to give an example, the brand messaging intensive that I sold in August is a spinoff of Brand Project. And so the reason I created this brand messaging intensive was I was actually on a sales call with one of my clients, and they didn't have the budget for a full brand messaging done for you project. But when I suggested Brand Project, the course, they were like, well, I don't really want to spend like 10 weeks on this. Like it's a whole thing. And to be fair, looking back at it now, as I'm talking about this, I'm realizing like, I think Brand Project is really great for people working on their messaging, like in their first few years of business. But this client has been in business for like 20 years. So they're pretty clear on how they help people. And so what they needed was not a course that teaches them about messaging. They needed an in between, right? Like something that's going to help them pull out their messaging with what they already know, but not necessarily investing with like the high ticket offer. And so what I did was create this intensive, and I didn't create anything new. I literally went into the Brand Project worksheets and I was like, what are the pieces that I really need to create a brand messaging guide? And I created a workbook that walks you through all of these pieces. And so that is really where the intensive was born, because I realized like, hey, if you answer all of these questions, I can create your guide, and then we can meet and talk about how this guide actually is implemented in real life. And it worked super well for this specific client. And so this is the idea that I'm kind of playing with, is these mini offers that are flexible. They deliver results and meet clients where they are. It's still getting me paid, right? Like I'm still happy to provide the service. I'm not feeling resentful about it. And the client is still getting the same transformation, right? So no matter whether they do Brand Project, the course, the Brand Project intensive, or brand messaging done for you service, they're getting the same transformation with just different levels of support. So that is one thing that I am really thinking about. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, because I'm doing these mini offers, I'm not spending a ton of time launching with like a giant buildup and like pre-launch and nurture, and then sell. I'm focusing on one offer per month, and I'm building all of my content around that. So I create my podcast content, and then my email content, and then any other content that I need around that. And it really has been working for me as of now, because it's easier to plan, and it helps me, one, build visibility throughout the month, because I have been leaning into bundles and collaborations and summits and private podcasts and just really leaning into email marketing and collaborating in that way. So I've been building visibility in the background, but then I'm just using every month, like, how can I nurture this month? What's the story I can tell? And what's the offer that I'm selling? And has really just opened up so much space for me because I literally spend one day recording my podcast episodes every month. I spend a few hours just outlining everything, and then I record everything on a second day. And then for my email, what I do is I plan out the month. I see what are like the bundles and collaborations that I'm a part of this month. What are, the stories that I want to tell. And I think of topics for each of the emails, and then I write them every Monday. So every Monday, I write the emails for that week. And this structure has been really, really working for me because it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's something that I'm enjoying. And yes, the podcast is batched ahead of time, but then my email is really my opportunity to be like, oh, hey, I noticed this other thing that I want to talk about. And really just leaning into like the kind of marketing that I feel like is fun and I enjoy. It just felt very, very good to leave social and lean into things that I actually enjoy. It's funny because I had somebody this week actually say, wait, you're not on Instagram anymore? Why? You were so good at it. And I'm like, yeah, I just hated it though. I hated it. And so, yeah, it's funny. Like maybe someday I'll go back. I don't know. I doubt it because I was never a social media person. Like I would so much rather play puzzle games on my phone than scroll Instagram. So, we'll see. I know things change, strategies change, people change. But for right now, this process is really working for me. But one of the things that I've been talking about a lot is really this idea of like having two offers or having multiple offers and how to bring that together in your marketing plan. And I've actually am thinking about this because one of my clients who's an agency owner, they offer a lot of different services, right? So their challenge as an agency owner who offers, 8 different things is how do you market in a way that's not just like a laundry list of what you do and instead zoom out to be like, hey, what is the overall transformation, right? So if you have multiple offers with multiple audiences, really thinking about like, what is the common factor, right? So is it your approach and how you do things? Or is it that you're going to have a fully functional website? Is it that, how can you zoom out so that you're looking at your brand and what your brand offers as the big promise instead of very specific offers? For me, what that looks like, right? I have Copy Classroom and Brand Project, which is the course that lives inside Copy Classroom. And then I have Copy Studio, which is done for you. And so these audiences are different, right? Like my done for you people are usually in business, honestly, for decades. If you're feeling like, oh, I should be able to outsource copy 5 years in, it's okay that you haven't because 95% of my Copy Studio clients have been in business for at least a decade. And usually many of them are 20, 30 years old. Yes, the audiences are different, but there's overlap, right? There's overlap between the Copy Studio people and the Copy Classroom people. Usually the Copy Classroom people, I love you guys, you're my nerds, right? But they're there because they like learning. They want to do the work. They enjoy writing. And not everybody is either in a place to outsource copy or in a place where they really want to take on that mental load and really, learn things. And so I am really playing around with this idea of like, how do I support the people in the middle more without necessarily like trying to create like an entire product suite, right? And so that was a lot of my thinking behind the brand message intensive. And it's a lot of my thinking around the offers that are coming for the rest of the year, which I'm not going to spill the beans on yet. I have a little post-it on my desk that plans out the rest of the year, but I also know I am somebody who changes their mind and tweaks and refines. So I don't want to spill the beans too soon, but basically I am really focusing on supporting the people in the middle. I'm leaning into these mini offers that aren't a heavy lift for me and really still help my clients with that same transformation, but with a different method of delivery. I'm playing with this idea of monthly themes. I'm not necessarily teaching it because I want to test it out, right? Before I am like, hey, clients, do this. But what I have found is like, it really does keep my messaging anchor my content is really connected and it has a purpose and it all points back to an offer and it works with my capacity, which I think honestly is the most important piece. Like as somebody who is a really anxious person and who overthinks things, really trying to like simplify it as much as possible and being like, hey, next month I'm talking about this and this is why I'm doing this offer and I'm not creating something new. I'm just using what I already have and I'm testing out a different format, really thinking about how can you refine and tweak without starting over? Because that also, another thing about that too is like, that is going to help build trust with your audience, right? That's going to help position you as an expert. If you sell this different offers with the same transformation, then your audience is going to be like, oh, wait, that's what this person helps with. And they're really great at it. And so then they have options about what kind of support that they like. So all of this being said, yes, I am still planning out my marketing. I'm just doing it really, really intentionally. And while I might be creating like quote unquote new offers, all of those are like super light lifts. Like for the brand messaging intensive, I was able to set that up in an afternoon because I had already done all of the work for brand project. And so really I just needed to like create a new book and create a link for checkout. So it was a little bit simpler. Also, the other piece of this too is I did write a sales page for the brand message intensive, though I don't think that you need a sales page for every single offer because that can be really time consuming. But if it's an offer you want to keep around for a while, then a sales page might make sense. But because the offer transformation is so similar and my message is so similar, it was really easy to write that sales page because I already knew exactly what to say before I wrote it, because it is so similar to what people are struggling with in Copy Classroom. And it is so similar to what people are struggling with the Copy Studio. Really just thinking about that and being creative in how you're showing up and supporting your people, and then how you can market in a way that feels good. Like, is there a way to sell the same result in different ways? Or, I know a lot of people who really want to lean into monthly themes. So like, try it out. What offer could you be selling? And what's the theme that you're talking about? What's the story that you're talking about? And then also my final piece of advice is making sure you are having those conversations with people, because a lot of my messaging and a lot of my content comes from these one-on-one conversations that I'm having with people, because I'm learning more about them, what they're struggling with, what they need help with. Like I always say, there are no rules. You can do things in a way that somebody taught you. You can try to like replicate my strategy, but you don't have to. Do what feels good to you. Try different things out, experiment. Sometimes I have clients come to office hours and they're like, well, that's an interesting idea, but I don't actually think that it's the direction I want to go in. And that's totally fine. Like, it's your business. Like, I am here to support you in finding a way that makes marketing sustainable, makes it feel good, and still gets you the results that you want. If you're listening to this and realizing your marketing or messaging needs a little TLC, then get on the email list for ways to work with me. And thank you so much for listening to Cozypreneur Podcast. If you have any episode requests, link to submit feedback and thoughts and questions is in the show notes. And thank you again for listening to Cozypreneur. Until next time.